I'm the second of twins. So my older brother, Dennis, lives in Fort Smith. My parents were Harry and Dorothy Sbanotto. I'm the sixth of seven of kids, so I'm not going to say it's an old-fashioned Italian Catholic family, but it's an old-fashioned Catholic family. A lot of kids. I lived in Tontitown all my life, in the house just down the road. And Betty's the oldest. She lives in Rogers. Then comes Pete. He lives in Siloam, and then Harry, HJ, we always call him. He lives in Siloam also. And then Tony, who lives right across the fence here. And then Dennis, who lives in Fort Smith. And then there's me, and then there's Bob, who lives in the house that we grew up in. So we're all kind of here close by. My grandparents, my grandmother on my dad's side, she was very old whenever I was very young, and the only thing I know about her is going to see her after Sunday service at the old folks' home, at the rest home. My grandmother on my mom's side, however, Noonie, she lived right across the street from the church. So after Mass on Sunday, we'd all go over there, and I'd help her cross the street, and we'd all meet over there, and she'd give us all little vanilla wafers, and luckily our kids got to know her before she died. The good kids, no kidding, the best of the best. I'm not exaggerating just because they're mine, They're smart as a tack and sharp as a whip, and just absolutely. Benjamin is our engineer, mechanical engineer. He lives in Tulsa. His twin lives in Springdale, Daniel, and he's a lawyer. Okay. Kevin is the youngest. He's a firefighter for Fayetteville Fire Department, and they live in Springdale. Well, for a living, Dad was a farmer. Okay, chickens and cows and grapes. And Mom just stayed home and canned. I mean, the cellar that's all we did all summer, was work the garden and can beans and corn and beets and just everything. Just can it all and put it down in the cellar. Dad, of course, he had chickens and cows, and we'd help him, feed chickens. I remember growing up small, before all the automated equipment that they have nowadays. Helping him. You'd have to get your wheelbarrow and get feed out of the bin and take it to the feeders in the chicken house. And I remember just barely being big enough to pick up the wheelbarrow full of feed and without tipping it over, going to feed the chickens. And he had a dozen or so, 15, 16 dairy cows. And we'd milk cows in the morning and in the evening, especially whenever we got older, milk cows. And I remember for Kraft's food, they're in Bentonville, but whenever Kraft upgraded their system, Dad just didn't upgrade with it. So, after a while he got out of the dairy business and went straight to beef. Well, just like any other family farm, you cut hay, you hauled it in, you got in that hot barn and stacked hay, you brush hog, you feed the chickens, you milk the cows, Here's the funny part, and I look at it back now, and it was kind of funny, but at the time I didn't think it was that funny. Growing up in high school, my brothers, we'd always take 1 week to milk cows. 1 week on, 2 weeks off. Okay, so if it was your week to milk cows, you just milk cows, and then if my brothers. They went out and got jobs, okay, and then come to find out that they couldn't milk during their week because they had to go to jobs. So they'd always ask me, "Can you go ahead and take me?" Sure, It ended up being that I milked cows all summer long because my brothers, they have jobs, And they'd go out, they'd on Friday evening, they'd hop in the car and take off and go to the movies and this and that. They had some money to burn, and I can't even buy gas because I stayed home and milked cows. And it wasn't until I was in college till I realized what had happened. I said, I need to get me a job so I could have some money so I could go to the movies, The first job I had, really, I was in college, and I was pump gas over here at the APCO station here in Tontitown, back whenever it was an APCO station. Pump gas, change oil, whatever, that's general light mechanic stuff and fix flats and what have you. Right now, of course, the APCO station has been torn down and the Z-Mart's been built in its place, so that'll kind of give you an idea where that was. Well, the town was small. The post office was in the Mercantile there at Barrington as part of the building, and we'd ride our bicycles up here and go through the comic books and try on sunglasses and just kind of goof around as kids do, and Mom would always buy bananas or whatever, something small. Whenever Mom went for her grocery list, for a big grocery, we'd all hop in the car and head off to Harps, there in Springdale. It's box store plus 10% or whatever it is there on the corner of Sunset and 71. And we'd stack up and go to town and go to Harps and come home, and everybody grab a basket or two or a bag or two and take it in. And as for buying anything up here, really the Mercantile was really the only place. You could buy anything. Whenever I was in elementary school, the last few days of school is springtime and still warm. We ride our bicycles because it's only half a mile between here and there. We ride our bicycles to school, and after school we stop in the store there, and for 25 cents you get a big old candy bar and a Mountain Dew, and have a good time riding bicycles home. Well, the only other store in town was the Mersani store, and it was just a little one room, but it would always have stuff that the big Mercantile there maybe didn't carry or didn't have. Some, Mom would be canning and she'd be running out of lids. She'd say, go to the Mercantile, get lids. And I'd go up there and they didn't have any canning lids. So I'd just go across the street over to the Mersani's there and they had some. So, it's nice to have two places where you get stuff like that, but that's pretty rare that the Mercantile didn't have what you were looking for. We would go to, right now it's Kentucky Fried Chicken, but back then it was a burger or something or other. Anyway, whenever we got done in the vineyard in the springtime, pruning and tying, getting them ready to go, we'd always go to the burger place there, and Mom would treat us to, hamburgers and French fries in town. As for places around here to eat, we normally didn't, as a family growing up. Mom would cook, and it's, there's 7 of us, and no kidding, if you weren't there whenever she said supper is ready, you might as well just not get anything. In the morning, you'd get up early and you milk your cows and then feed the chickens, and especially in the summertime, then you'd eat breakfast. Okay. During school, of course, you'd get up and eat breakfast and catch the bus and off you go. But in the summertime, you get up and milk your cows, and I'd help Dad finish with the chicken house, and then we'd eat breakfast. And eat breakfast about 9:30 or so. And to this day, I don't get hungry for breakfast till 9:30, 10 o'clock. So, that's something I just kind of grew up with. There's always chores to do, of course. There's always chores. I don't think that's a tradition either. I think that's just the way it is. And, you'd do whatever you needed to do, and you'd always listen for the church bell, because the church bell rang at 6 a.m. and then noon and then 6 p.m. And, you'd be out there working the garden or running the cows, whatever it is that you were doing, and the church bell would ring. Okay, it's time for lunch, and then we kind of pack up and go back to the house and eat lunch, and then turn around and go back, and be out there. And in the wintertime, of course, it gets dark real early, but later on in the spring, whenever you tie in vines and things, I'd always wait for the church bell, the 6 o'clock church bell to ring before I'd, try to finish up what it is that I was doing and come on home. I went to elementary school here in Tontitown, grades 1 through 6. Junior high in Springdale, the Southwest Junior High. They just built that. And then graduated in Springdale High School in '75. So as for school up here, is small classes. I'd say small. It's 4-room schoolhouse, so we had 2 grades in the upper grades. Grade 1 was by itself, grade 2 was by itself, then 3 and 4 was in a room, and then 5 and 6 was in a room. I was taught by nuns pretty much the whole way in elementary school. Mean ladies, but boy, I tell you what, they really straightened you up, if you know what I mean. Back then, it was yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am, and just really. An elder, somebody older than you really paid attention to, and were courteous and all that. But the nuns up here were, whenever they got mean, whenever you did something wrong, they were. But if you did something right, boy, they're right on you, just applauding you and helping you along. So, they're. At the time, I thought they were real ogres, but come looking at it now, it's, they made me who I am. Well, of course, we had a pretty small class, so I could probably name them all. Dwayne Piazza, or Dwayne Penalto, he lived down on Penalto. Mark Artemani, he lived over here on Monogany. Charlie Dinas, he lived over there on Gibbs. Kenny Penalto, he lived down, during the elementary years and junior high years, the only way we had to get around was bicycles. And of course, Mark lived up, just about a half a mile from here, and Dwayne lived another half a mile. But you cut that real short if you cut across the pastures. Okay, so that's what we did. We just ride up here and crawl into the fence here and just keep on going. Zoop, go make a straight line, cross one fence, and you're in. And made the trip a little easier to go see your buds. Well, Dad had about 20 acres altogether at one time, and it's labor intensive. Let me tell you that. It's just labor intensive, and that's what he always kept saying. For every kid, you plant 3 acres or something, to keep them busy, I guess. But anyway, he had about 20 acres, and especially in high school and in college, we'd go out and prune. If I didn't have class in that afternoon, I'd go prune, and I'd catch up with the guys. Dad would be pruning, and he had a couple of guys with him, local guys, and they've been pruning all their life, and I just greenhorn, just getting started. We get started on a road, boy, I'd be just going just as fast as I could go, trying to keep up with them. And about halfway through the road, they're gone. I mean, for some reason, them guys kick in an afterburner, and they're just out. And I'm out there looking like, how could they do that fast, and keep on going. I never could keep up with Ed. I couldn't keep up with Ed for nothing. Him and Jim together, boy, they get out there and start talking, and man, they just be gone. And I just, wait, guys, wait for me. But tying vines and all that, the kids, me and my brothers, we'd go out there and we kind of all stay together. And it doesn't take long if you got 5 kids out there, and it doesn't take long to really train them. So it doesn't take long to knock it out. The weather, I remember pruning with snow up to my knees. Okay, you get one of them warm. The sun's out. It could be 30 degrees, but the sun reflecting off the snow feels like it's 50. You know, I get out there with my coveralls and big jacket, and right off the bat, you take off your coat, you know, because it's the sun coming off the snow, and you just, you know, just prune. Well, of course, Dad sold his grapes to Welch's, okay, National Grape, and then they sold to Welch's. But at that time it was all together. I hadn't figured all that out, but it's National Grape, and then of course National Grape sold to Welch's. Dad would take off in early mid-August and travel into Oklahoma and recruit pickers, and they would come and pick. Of course, you know, we'd be out there picking too, and you know, late in the afternoon we'd fire up the tractor and get the wagon and off we go pick up all the lugs they slid up under the rows, you know, and we gave every different picker a card with a number on it, you know, and had their name written on that for that number, so we could keep track of how many each individual picked, because that's how they got paid, so many cents a lug, and load them on the truck, and Dad would take them to Welch's at night, you know, and the next day was the same thing, just a couple more rows over, and eventually, you know, got them all picked. Now, once the grape picker, you know, the mechanical harvester came on, that was a different story. Okay, I worked with the crew and I'd work during the day, and one crew would work at night, and of course I could only work between the time grapes started picking and the time school started. So you know, I wasn't on the crew the whole time, but and my job was to pick out bird nests and trash and stuff that came off the picker into the vat. And I could remember you know, picking out bird nests and leaves and all kinds of stuff, and all of a sudden a snake dropped down in the vat, you know, and I had a little hoe there with me, and I was trying to pick him out, and I thought, he's gone, you know, he's done worked himself to the bottom. I'll never find him, you know. But yeah, it was a deal. And Dad, you know, in September, he was mayor of Tontitown. He would have to go to the council meeting, and I would go ahead and drive the truck. Okay, holy cow, you know. That was a big thing for me, was hopping on one of them big trucks carrying, you know, 12 tons of grapes. Here I go to Welch's, you know, and that was to me, that was the most exciting part, was whenever he was on city council, whenever he was mayor, he'd have to take that night off, because he drove at night, and so I'd drive for him during whenever he's on council. Most of them. That's a good question, because I really don't know where all of them stayed. Okay, we had an old shed, an old house. It's the house that Dad grew up in, right across the road from where he built his house, and we'd always have at least one family, you know, kind of stay in there. But the rest of them, I don't know. I'm sure that they didn't drive back and forth from Oklahoma every day. Well, the church is, back then, I thought, was the community, you know, because everybody in town went to church there. And I just assumed that, you know, we're all one big happy family, and there's no separation between church and city. But, you know, as I grew older, I realized that the church is the church and the city is the city. So, but growing up young, I thought, you know, holy cow, everybody that goes to church lives in Tontitown, and, you know, it's just what you do. It's just what you do. Of course, we go to Sunday Mass. If I had to milk cows Sunday morning, then I went, you know, Saturday night, and then milk cows on Sunday morning. But if I had to milk cows in the morning, I'd, you know, so it was. I just thought for sure that all the church, you know, was the city. You know, the folks I saw, the boys I grew up with, the kids I grew up with, you know, were all altar servers. I'm sure they all got together in the morning. Some of them got together in the morning, you know, at the Mercantile. You know, they do their cows, they do their chickens, and then off to the mercantile they go, and you know, get caught up on the latest whatever's going on. Maybe they're there to buy plumbing parts or electric parts or whatever for their farm. You know, who knows? But you know, they'll sit up there on them dog food bags and talk shop, and of course they're talking Italian, and I don't know any of that, so I, you know, let them do their business. As for us kids, you know, doing stuff, they built the park in 60 something. I can't remember. And I know in high school and in the early part of college, me and my brothers would go up and play tennis and all that, and you know, had the ball diamond up there, and there was, you know, I wouldn't say little league ball, local kids get together and play ball. That was kind of fun, and later on, you know, whenever everybody was able to drive and get around, you know, we'd go canoeing. You know, we'd all get together and go up to Missouri. You know, canoe the elk or the little sugar or the big sugar or whatever it is. That was running good that week. And I know those guys up there like it whenever we call, because you know, whenever we call, we say, guys, we need 20 canoes, because there's 50 of us that are going to be there. So you know, they like that. You know, they could get rid of all their canoes in one whack every time we called. So they liked us calling, and that was fun. We get out there and canoe. You know, leave Sunday morning early and get up there and put in, and then take out at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, whatever, and drive on back home. Just make a day running the river. Well, we'd fish a lot, some. You know, we'd hop on our bicycles and hang onto our fishing reel and go down to Arbor Acres, fish the lake, or occasionally we'd go all the way to Wheeler and fish the creek down there, or ride the bicycles down to Brush Creek down on the other side of Elm Springs and fish that creek. Or I never was real big about going to Lake Elmdale or Beaver Lake, but you know, we just kind of just get out there and fish. In the wintertime, you know, we go squirrel hunting or whatever, and when there's snow on the ground, we go rabbit hunting. You can't hardly do that anymore with too many houses. Well, that's another good question. What do parents do for fun? Well, my folks would play pitch. Okay, they'd get Francis and Andy Franco would come up, or other couples would, you know, they'd sit there and play pitch all night. And of course, I was small and didn't understand card playing and pitch, but after watching them for, you know, a couple of years, you kind of pick up on some tricks. Okay, and now my wife won't play pitch with us because she thinks I'm cheating. Being a farm and being, you know, having that many kids, there really wasn't that much downtime, if you know what I mean. I don't remember all of us piling in the car and going to a movie or anything like that. I don't remember that at all. I mean, maybe we did. I just don't remember. But occasionally on the weekends, you know, Dad or Mom would take us to the movie house down in Fayetteville. But that was something that had to be on that was really worth watching, you know. But most of the time, I just hop on the bicycle, and me and my brothers hop on the bicycle and down the road and under the fence and go see Dwayne and Mark, and you know, just kind of all gather up there and make a day just running bicycles up and down the road. My work ethic today is based on you know, how I grew up, and it was, you know, if Dad caught us sitting down after school, he'd be after us, okay, with a stick, with a belt. All right, no bueno, guys. You get out there and you get home, you change into your work clothes, and you go hit it. And so that's, yeah, and I'm surprised you know, because the folks I work for, work with, you know, how long is it going to take you to do this? Well, if you leave me alone, it'll take me 30 minutes. If you stay here and talk to me, it'll take me an hour. Let's get out of my way, let me do my job, and we'll get done. So, you know, I'm not saying nothing nasty about the young kids growing up nowadays, but you know, you could look at them, and that work ethic is not as prevalent as it was back in my day. The changes in the Grape Festival, or going to the Grape Festival, was a real treat. Okay, because we live so close. You know, we just live a half mile from the church. So, you know, in the morning, we'd hop on our bicycles and go pick up trash. And you know, right before the Grape Festival started, we'd all get together, me and my brothers. We'd all get together and make us a little trash picking up stick. Drive a nail into you know, a little 1x1 board, and you know, so you wouldn't have to bend over to pick up paper cups. Just snap them, put them in the bag. And we'd always push and shove to get the broken shovel handle, because that was the ideal stick. Otherwise, you know, you'd have to have to find a 2x4 or something, you know, that's just the right length, and you know, so. We'd go up there and pick up trash, and then after we got done picking up trash, you know, we ride bicycles around the sidewalks until noon. You know, the bell would ring, and off we go back home for lunch. And Mom would always say, "You got to have a nap before you go back up there." You know, no kid's going to take a nap knowing that they're going to the Grape Festival. You know, and so you just kind of sit there in bed and kind of wallow around until about 4:30 or so. And I said, then you hop up and go, you know, and ride the rides. And you know, we didn't have a whole lot of money. Us kids didn't have a whole lot of money, but we got free tickets for picking up trash, so we'd use those tickets to go ride the rides and to have a good time. Other things that I have done at the Grape Festival. One year I was chairman, believe it or not. Chairman of the Grape Festival, and that was a real exciting year. We had just changed priests at that time, and there was the priest that was moved out was a real micromanager, okay, and he pretty much told us what it is that we're going to do. But the new priest came in, of course, you know, we were neck deep in planning and ordering, you know, flour and eggs and all that stuff, and he had no idea what was going on or how it was all going to go together. And you know, I just sat him down. I said, the best thing you could do is just sit down and watch and to think about it, you know, and then next year you could be more involved. I mean, right now we're getting ready to make spaghetti. You know, the flour's been ordered. I ordered my eggs yesterday. The only thing you do now is come and, you know, say a blessing every time we start making spaghetti. All right, if you do that, then we'd be okay. Putting up and taking down stands. I worked in the kitchen as a swamper for years. And then after I was chairman, they moved me up to car tickets. The easy job. Oh, they go around and pick up, after everybody's done eating, you know, you go pick up all the plates and clean the tables and clean the seats and, you know, take out the trash and, you know, clean up behind everybody. So the faster we clean up, the more people they can move through there, is what they keep telling me. So, you know, we had to be kind of Johnny on the spot whenever folks got up and left. You need to be right there cleaning up, getting ready for the next one. The biggest deal, of course, in town was the Grape Festival. And it wasn't until just a relatively short past that the Heritage Days and the Bocce Tournament and all that stuff got started. I mean, my kids were probably early teens whenever we started the Bocce Tournament, and they got me to go play with them one year to make a four-man team. The first year, I think. Of course, we didn't do any good because I can't throw worth nothing, but, you know, we had a good time anyway. The old bocce court was outside of town and in the back of some guy's yard, okay? And maybe once a year, I'd hop on a bicycle and cross 68, back whenever it was 68, and go watch them for a little bit. But whenever they built the bocce court in town at the park, I'd go up there on Saturday sometimes if I'm not working and go watch them play. The strategy they use isn't the strategy that I use, so I really hadn't figured out their strategy. To me, just throw a ball down there and the closest one counts. So, but the folks out there who play bocce every weekend, every day, they got it down. They got a strategy and they know where to put them, and they pretty much put the balls where they want them, and good for them. Yeah, my time with the city. I kind of wanted to get involved with it. My degree is in engineering, and I'd been working as a heavy construction inspector and helped design water systems and sewer systems and subdivisions and all kinds of stuff. And then I got into the during that time I was working in engineering. I figured, well, let me go ahead and try to work for the water department. Now, Dad kind of started the water department back in the day. Everybody was on wells, and there wasn't any water out here. And there was a hotel downtown, right across the road from the Mercantile, which is Pam's parking lot right now, and it burned down. I mean, and of course there was no water to put it out, no water to control it. They just, he didn't have any choice. It was going to go to the ground. That was it. And that's what really prompted Dad, he was mayor at the time, to try to get, city water up here. And he worked up a deal with Springdale, and John Paul Hammerschmidt was our representative. And he helped us get grants and loans and things to build the water system. Now, it wasn't a big one. Now, let me grant you that. I mean, they had fire lines to downtown, and that's just about it. Everybody else got, 3-inch, 4-inch lines, some drinking water, and that's about all it was. And I knew that, and that's why I wanted to get involved in the water department, and to improve the system, get fire lines out in the rural areas out here. Because being part of an engineering design team, doing subdivisions and commercial work and large scale and all that stuff, you could see it coming. Okay, it's coming, guys. We may be a small, sleepy, grape town, but hang on. Here in a couple of years, it's going to be houses everywhere. And I've seen, not saying nothing nasty about the other towns around here, but some of them been caught flat-footed on the first big push, and all of a sudden they're building out subdivisions that they can't get enough water in those lines to do the deal, and I saw that. I said, well, I want to see if I can't get ahead of the game and put some water out here, some fire lines, because I know once water comes out, then sewer's not going to be too far away. And then, off we go from there. And we better be ready, because whenever they start building houses, it's too late. If you don't have your infrastructure in place, by the time they start building houses, you're in trouble. So that's what I tried to do. I was with the water department for, 10 years or so, 12 years, I can't remember. It's been a long time. And got a 1-cent sales tax passed dedicated to water and sewer improvements. And we used that money to spread, big fire lines. And we got 8-inch lines out here in front of the house. Holy cow, that's enough for a couple of fire hydrants. So working with the fire department and, with everybody else, we trying to lower our ISO, fire ratings and all that stuff. And that was part of the deal. The volunteers, they got it as low as they could because they're volunteers and the equipment that they had, but the rest of it was kind of up to me, to get enough fire flows, water flows for fire, to help them out. So, and that's, I'd work with the chief, figuring out where we're going, how we're going to get there, where we need to put fire hydrants, to get things, to get a better rating. Folks would ask me, I'm looking for a spot to build, a 50,000 square foot. I'm looking for a kind of light manufacturing warehouse. I said, you need to go to Tontitown. I said, we're 5 minutes from Springdale, we're 10 minutes from Fayetteville, we're 12 minutes from Rogers, we're 2 minutes to the interstate. I said, guys, this is it. This is a central location, and several folks would just look at me like, we never thought about that. The highway department, whenever they're widening 412 and Jones Road, they asked me, they called me. The highway department called me, said, do you have plans on, what's your big street plan? I said, well, yeah, nothing's in writing and nothing's been drawn, but, there's been some talk about, well, do we need to put a light at Jones Road? Yes, sir. You need to put a light at Jones Road. A four-way intersection. Well, there's nobody on the south side. I said, there's talk about, development going on in there, and that developer would call me and says, how are we going to get around entrances, because there's a set distance you got to be off an intersection for an entrance to your business. And I said, you hang on, I'm going to get you, we're going to see if we can't get a light there at Jones Road. That way you could have that light as an entrance. And that's one thing that, you take a look at Walmart, the first thing they do is they put up a stoplight, okay? So they give folks a chance to turn in without any trouble. And boy, whenever he heard that, boy, he jumped right on there and he says, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and we're going to build this road down to here. Yeah. And I know eventually there's going to be a road connecting this going down south, but I don't know when that's ever going to happen, but that's part of the plan. And boy, the highway department was all excited. Yeah, we put in the light, and the developer was all excited. Yeah, we get a protected entrance into my businesses here, and boy, he was all excited. Everybody was all excited. So yeah, I'd like to think that I helped out town, but there's still folks in town that want to keep it, a small town. But it could still be that and still be a big town. It could still have the small town feel with all the amenities, jobs for the people, local businesses, so you don't have to drive all the way to Fayetteville or Springdale to get parts or pieces or whatever. I even talked to the guys at O'Reilly's, because I'd always have to run into Springdale to get parts for my old truck. And I said, guys, y'all need to build something out in Tontitown so I don't have to drive in town every weekend to get parts. You need to get, and sure enough, here they come. So, yeah, it's a small town still, but we're getting some big time stuff coming. Well, of course, Pam, he'd been here all this time anyway, he's a local guy anyway, Paul Maestri. Pam Trucking, everything that's going on there at 112 with, Domino's and the new hamburger place that the wife knows about, that these guys have been on the Food Channel before, so, they're semi-famous. And, they're on the north side or the south side of 112 there at 412. All that warehouse and Coca-Cola and water products and all those guys. We've got businesses here at the tractor places, John Deere, the Mehander place. All have come in since I was a kid. So folks are realizing, I think, that this is a pretty good spot, centrally located. Once all the roads are built, then it'll be easier to get in and out, I hope. It's the people, okay? I'll be real honest with you, it's the people. Okay, we got neighbors up here that moved in a couple years ago, and I see them walking down the road. I mean, I'll stop the truck, and I'll get out, and we'll just talk about, what's going on, and you know, the problem with my neighbors up here, and I know it's not their fault, but I'd be out there feeding the cows, working the cows, and I finish up and I close the gate, and here they come walking down the road. That's what I like about good neighbors, I tell them. This is what I like about good neighbors. They always show up whenever the work is done. I said, one of these days, I'll catch you early, and then you can help me work the cows. Well, the only thing I can say about Tontitown is that it's a small town. It's going to stay small, or feel small. Okay, that's the key. It's going to feel small, even though we've got all the amenities of any bigger town. Like I said, it's a hop, skip, and a jump. You're in Springdale. It's 12 minutes. You're downtown Fayetteville. It's really a centrally located, small town feel place. Everybody knows everybody. I mean, my cows got out the other day. Had one get out. The neighbor gives me a call. Your cow's out. How often that's going to happen in town? My cow get out, somebody's going to run over him, and then I get sued for fixing his car. So, the neighbors up here, everybody, like I said, we all work together. We pretty much leave each other alone, but whenever you're in trouble, they're right there. Back in the day, my granddad's day, say, I'm not going to say 100 years ago, but at least 90. We were out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, Springdale was just a little two-horse town. Okay, and the only place that the immigrants could get cash, but back then you still needed to have cash, they would work the mines over in Oklahoma, and they would come home in the winter and prune the grapes, and off they go, and then they come back in the fall for a little bit and pick the grapes, and then back they'd go. And I guess that's probably how come everybody's birthday is always in August. Okay, they came home, picked the grapes, and did their business, and then went back, and come August, everybody's having kids. So August, September. But nowadays it's not that way. Okay, if you need a job, there's jobs here in town. I don't know what they pay because I don't work here in town, but there's jobs in Northwest Arkansas that are being left unfilled, well-paying jobs. So, and that's really what's happening now, is that everybody's building out here, and they're working at Walmart or J.B. Hunt or whatever, and we're going to turn into a bedroom community. But I still feel like we're going to end up being a, kind of a small town. I hope have the small town feel anyway.